in 5 minutes. Okay. Hey, we need to thank our buddy Joe. Joe is a walk around the city pictures. Everybody's seen the pictures. Joe is so great about doing this. You know, at our Christmas party, we had Joe taking pictures, and we got some really great pictures out of that. But I haven't seen these yet, and so he's taking pictures around. He's so good to do that for us. On his dime, by the way. That's his contribution to this group. So, thank you, Joe, for doing that. Well, today we're going to have a good time, I can tell you that, because we have a great guest speaker with us. And let me tell you that when I got a phone call from Kelly Arnie, and she works in Vanderbilt, she's the Center of Excellence over there. And she goes, hey, I looked at your roster, and I see on your website that you've got Bunny Donnelly coming to speak to you. And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm so glad I checked the website. Otherwise, I wouldn't know that. I plan to be there. And I said, really? She goes, yeah. You know, I've got referred people
That's picking
to her,
him
and,
perfectly.
really
If she
great
stays.
feedback, and I can't wait to meet her. And anyway, so she won't be here today. She sends me this text and goes, Ron, I can't make it. I'm so sorry. I got this other meeting I have to go to, and it's a mandatory thing. And so anyway, so she missed her opportunity. But we're going to do the usual things today. We're going to have our guest speaker, and in place of our exercise, our guest speaker is going to help us do a little exercise. And then we're going to have our wear and tear kit check. And I know everybody brought their wear and tear kit. And we actually have a guy named Blake. And he's got a big smile. He's a young guy. So take a look around and see if you can spot him. Can you? Can anybody spot him? Huh? Young guy? Blake is from the Parkinsons Foundation. And he's going to talk to us just a minute. But he's brand new. There's a guy named Eli that was here for a year. And he's moved on. He's got another job. You know, these folks work their way up in the organization, but in the Parkinsons Foundation. And they're the ones that are responsible for this. So when he has an opportunity to talk to us for a few minutes, he's going to be making a big invitation to us. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But anyway, somebody has a connection with our guest speaker today. Somebody who has Karen, please. So we're going to have Karen make the introduction this morning. So
I think you made this thing high because you're tall, make us all feel short in a box. Good morning. Bunny is a big PT, LSVT certified, all those initials after her name, you know. She's been my physical therapist for a while. I started with her after I had the DBS surgery and was walking very slowly, not swinging my arms, and she had to retrain my brain. That's a big job. Retraining my brain to say, go big. Well, no, we found it. We just couldn't retrain it, yeah. You know, the person that you think walking slow and not doing the arms is normal. And we don't think anything about it until she evaluated me and she said, okay, we're going to change this up. So she has me walking bigger. She has me thinking bigger, and when I told her, I said, you know, I guess I do walk kind of slow because I walk with my 83-year-old mother-in-law every morning, and she's faster than me. So that told me right there that I was needing her assistance. She is also, after I finished my big PT training, she is helping me with balance. She's just so good at everything. So I want to introduce Bunny Donnelly. She is my favorite physical therapist.
I appreciate that, and you did tell the truth.
I did. She thought I was going to make up stories about
I
her.
was afraid she might embellish a little bit, and I'd have to call her on it.
That was all off the top of my head, too. So, yeah.
Well, this is good on top of my head, too.
Okay,
So.
good.
It means you got a brain.
Do what?
It means she has a brain.
She does have a brain. They confirmed that with the surgery.
Well,
You haven't confirmed mine.
They did find it when I opened her up. So I am Bunny Donnelly. I'm a physical therapist. I've lived in Murfreesboro since I was 11. I left briefly to go to college, and when I was first married, my husband and I lived in Nashville, but we came back to Murfreesboro in about 1995. I went to Riverdale, I went to MTSU, So I consider myself a native of Murfreesboro. Otherwise, I've lived in Nashville and Clarksville. So definitely a Middle Tennessee girl. And I appreciate being able to come and visit with you guys today. I have spoken to this group before COVID, so I'm not seeing a lot of faces from that group. So it looks like we've had some new blood come in, and so good job to Ron and his wife for getting this group back together again after COVID, because I know that can be hard to do once you lose the habit of doing something. And habit is exactly what we're going to talk about today, because with Parkinson's, you need to continue to move. It's not a time to take a break. It's not a time to take a break and go on vacation. You've got to keep doing your exercises. You've got to keep focusing on your health, and especially those movement patterns, because you can lose them pretty quickly. So we don't want that to happen. Okay? I like to keep this informal. If you have any questions, just throw it out there. I do like to ask if there's a specific question to you, if you can hold that till the end, because that's difficult for me to answer in a group. And sometimes it's impossible for me to answer without doing a little more thorough evaluation of you. So I'm not trying to put you off. I just have to make sure we're safe with any answers that I give. So if you have a question that's more general, throw it out there. If you have something specific to you, you can hold it till the end. I'd be happy to try to answer it if I can, with your safety in mind.
We'll forget it by then.
Write it down. See, again, back to her brain. So I understand that you had a presentation on the LSVT Loud program. How many of you were here for the LSVT Loud? So some of you are going to hear a little bit of a repeat, and I apologize, but for those that haven't heard it, I want to make sure they understand the background of this program. So the LSVT stands for Lee Silverman Voice Technique. What is the T? Training. Lee Silverman Voice Training. And in 1987, Miss Silverman was living out west, and her children did not live in the same city, and so they were having to communicate mostly by phone. And this was before Zoom and FaceTime and all that. And the children her adult children were having a hard time understanding her, couldn't hear her. And they asked her therapist, is there anything you can do about mom's voice? We want to be able to hear mom. We want her to be able to talk to the grandkids. And so that's how LSVT Loud was born. From the request of some adult children and one woman. This program started in 1987 and continues to grow bigger and bigger every year. The idea behind it is that the Parkinson's brain is telling you that what you're doing is normal. It is of normal amplitude. So when you find yourself or you caregivers see your loved one walking with these short steps, your loved one has no idea they're walking with short steps. The Parkinson's brain has told them that they're walking normally. So what the LSVT program has found is if we emphasize loud, if we emphasize big, we can recalibrate that brain that's been affected with Parkinson's disease, and we can get you to get back to being bigger, get back to being louder. Okay? So I'm sure with the Loud program, they talked about.
Huh?
There's my world.
And the mask was terrible, terrible. So we have developed, I have learned the program, but they have developed this program that recalibrates the brain, and it works. The last time I was here, I had a gentleman, my sister's an attorney, and I would not make a good attorney. My sister says, never ask a question that you don't know the answer to. Well, I asked a question, and it was risky. And I just said, would anyone volunteer? And this man sort of raised his hand. He thought it was way up here, and he sort of raised his hand. His wife was sitting next to him, and I said, okay. I said, sir, I want you to stand up for me. And after about 2 or 3 minutes, he still wasn't standing. So I thought, I got a good potential here. Please let this work, because I got a lot of people watching. And he also whispered. So I sat down in front of him, and I said, we're going to get up big. And I want you, when you stand up, to say your name as loud as you can. He looked at me like I was an idiot. And I acted like one. And I said, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to say, my name is Bunny. And you're going to get up. He looked at me. I said, let's go. I said, dive into the pool and stand up big. And he dove into the pool and he stood up and he said, my name is Mike. And the whole room, just their mouths dropped. His wife teared up. And he sat back down and he looked at his wife and he said, and I just grinned. And I looked at him and I shushed everyone else because everyone's talking about him. I mean, they've never heard his voice. And I said, can I tell him what you just said? I said, he just asked if he was too loud. And they were all like, you were perfect. And he also got up on one try. And all it took was a little cueing. And I'll be really honest, when someone comes into my clinic and they want to be a part of the LSVT program, first day is just an evaluation. There's no promise that you're getting into the program because you have to qualify for it. He qualified. The qualification is simply, can I look at you, have you do something on your own, and then I tell you to do it differently, and can you get better at it? If you can get better at it, you're in. Okay, then we proceed. Can't get better at it, we figure out why. What else are we missing? Maybe you had a hip replacement and you don't have enough strength. Okay, so now we need to do physical therapy first for hip strength, and then we can build into LSVT BIG. Okay? So it's not that you don't get into the program today or ever, you just don't get into the program today until we've got you better prepared. Okay? So it was just an eye-opening, beautiful experience. Now, on that note, he didn't come. He didn't choose to pursue any more help. I am not here, as I told Ron, I'm not here to promote myself as a business. I'm here to promote this program. Okay, so I don't come with brochures, and I'm not here to do a commercial. I'm just here to encourage all of you to find what works for you in your growth and your pursuit of health as you deal with having Parkinson's. There's lots of options. I think several of you are members of Rock Steady Boxing. I encourage all of my patients to go to Rock Steady Boxing. Whatever works for you is fine with me. I know this works and I'm passionate about it. I know this makes a difference. Okay? So that's sort of the background of the LSVT program. That's how it got started. Just the question of, 1 or 2 adult children, and look at what it's become. Okay, it's an international program, and it just does wonderful things. Okay? The program itself is 4 weeks in length, and it's 4 days a week. You're in the clinic about 45 minutes to an hour, and there's a lot of repetition, which can get old and boring. It can get old and boring for the physical therapist too, because I'm right there doing them with you. But it needs to be repetitive so that we can recalibrate the brain. And then there's a commitment. After you leave, you're expected to exercise twice a day forever. When you go back to the clinic in 6 months, and you get just a little follow-up appointment, sometimes you need to start again for the whole 4 weeks, sometimes you just need to come for a week, sometimes just 1 or 2 days. Just depends on how you've done, how well you've continued your exercises, stuff like that. Okay. So that's sort of how the program works. What I'd like to do is introduce you all to some of the exercises to let you have an idea of what it is. These exercises are very different than just you sitting down at a leg extension machine and just doing leg extensions like you might do in a gym. Or it's different than a step aerobics class, where it's just a lot of the same thing. But nothing is big or recalibrating you to anything else. I'm not saying those classes aren't good, okay? If you can participate in those too, do so. But it's not specific to Parkinson's. So we have found that for the patient with Parkinson's, doing movements that simulate life, okay, is the best. And doing movements that incorporate strength with balance, with coordination, all at one time, are our best option. If I were to ask, and you don't have to raise your hands on this, but if I were to ask how many of you, maybe even some of the caregivers, have trouble getting off the toilet, have trouble getting off of a soft couch, okay? Most of us do, all right? That's a weakness problem for many of us. But very often, if I were to come and just check her strength of her legs and she says, I can't get off the chair ever without, pushing and everything. But if I check the strength of her legs, they might be perfect. Because with the Parkinson's affected brain, you might have full strength, but your brain can't put it together to make it do what it is you're asking it to do. Okay? So these exercises in the LSVT program take that into effect. So one of the exercises is stand up big. So every time you come to the clinic, we're going to stand up big at least 10 times. And then you're encouraged to stand up big every time you stand up at home, so that it becomes a recalibration in your brain. And then all of a sudden, because your brain is telling you that's all the effort it needs, or you need to get up. And you're still sitting there, you're not getting up. Okay? So that's one of the ways that this is different, because it's movement patterns. It also focuses on the movements that are most typically lost with patients who are suffering with Parkinson's disease. If I were to say, well, this, again, I'm not a good attorney, so I'm going to ask a question without knowing the answer. If I were to say bending forward, bending backward, or turning, which one of those directions are most of you most limited with? Will we get the right answer? We'll see. I'll give you the answer. Turning. Okay. People lose the ability to rotate with Parkinson's disease. Okay? That's why we don't swing our arms as much, because we don't have trunk rotation. We tend to cut our eyes, and we think we've turned our head. Okay? How many of you do that? Yeah. And your loved one has to say, turn around. And even then it's more of a this kind of thing. We tend to extend instead of rotate and twist. So LSVT BIG exercises have a lot of rotational components, so that we make sure we recalibrate that, we get that feeling again. And that is just so important. Once you finish your exercises, you should feel tired and rejuvenated, if that's possible, okay? When I'm finished with the exercises with you guys, I'm exhausted. I only take 2 LSVT patients at a time, because I'm literally tired when I'm finished with you guys, because I'm exerting so much energy to make sure I'm imparting to you what you need to have to be recalibrated. Okay? When I leave, or when you leave, my shoulders are tired because of the exercises that I've done with you. Are there any questions about any of that, or do any of you agree that rotation is difficult and things like that? Are any of you doing a traditional, and this isn't a negative, are any of you doing a traditional gym program, like going to the sports com? That's excellent. Excellent. I would continue that. But do you notice that you still have trouble getting up from a chair? And as strong as you are with your exercises at the gym, would you think you'd have trouble getting up from a chair? If I check your strength, are you going to really be able to fight me? Then you should be able to get up from, yes ma'am, you should be able to get up from a chair.
As far as the loud,
Yes.
when you were speaking, does the patient, and this may have to do with the length of time they've had Parkinson's, when you say, speak loud, and they respond, and they do, 10 minutes later, you're saying it again.
That's exactly right.
Is that normal?
Yes.
So you, being the caregiver, have to repeat it almost incessantly.
Yes, almost incessantly, because it hasn't recalibrated. And I can't speak exactly for loud, but it's the same thing as big. But yes, it depends on how long you've been there. What I try to emphasize, let me give an example of my children. Okay, my children are golfers, and golf lessons are not cheap. And so my son's at a golf tournament, and he is hooking the ball. I'm like, correct it. You've done this 12 times, correct it. So after his round, I'm like, what was wrong with your swing? I don't know. What does Mr. Brain tell you you're doing wrong when you're hooking the ball? I don't know. Okay, I need a lesson, Mom. Okay, you had a lesson on Tuesday. What we need to do is remember what the lesson was. So I had my kids, because I don't have enough money. I said, you need to write down one thing change if you're hooking, one thing to change if you're slicing, one thing to change if the put's going left. So they had little cue cards in their bag. I said, at least try one change. So in your case, I'm coming back to the question, the patient also has to come up with self-correction reminders, and that's very difficult. In the LSVT program, we call them aha moments. It's when you go, aha, I get it, and I can self-correct, okay? And it's very important, not just in golfers, but in everybody. So another example of a patient in my clinic, she was walking, and all of a sudden she was walking beautifully, and I was just in shock. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was great, that was great. She said, are you kidding? I look like a walking horse. And another patient heard her, and she said, no, you didn't. She said, I felt like a walking horse. And I just, for whatever reason, I had my iPad. I never have an iPad in office. And I said, can I video you? So I got my iPad, and I said, walk. And it was perfect. So do you still feel like a walking horse? Yes. I look like an idiot. I said, no, you don't. Look at this video. You're perfect. So from then on, I said, walk like a walking horse. So when she walked like a walking horse in her heart, she walked normally. So what you need to come up with is when you talk correctly, where do you feel it? So I try to get my patients, especially with voice, I'll say, where do you feel that? Okay, you don't feel, where do you feel this? I feel that in my throat. You know, I get a little reverberation here. So where do you, when you're talking loudly, where do you feel it? Because when you talk, if you're not feeling it there, change it. Yeah, okay? Where do you talk loudly? Tell me where you feel it.
Hey, how are you?
Where do you feel it? Where do you hear it? Do you feel it here? Do you hear it in your ears?
I do.
Okay.
But I hear it when I'm talking slowly.
Okay. So
I think
that's
mine's more of a, I sound like a drunk
okay.
when I'm talking.
That works.
Then talk like a drunk.
Hey, baby, you want to go to the bar?
But I mean, we joke, but that's what you have to do. She had to walk like a walking horse. And so the next time she came into the clinic, she wasn't walking well. And I said, are you walking like a walking horse? And she said, no. So walk like a walking horse. And there she goes. So that was her aha moment. That was her cue. And that's what's so wonderful about LSVT. It's individualized. We take